It's not starting.
Welcome to the Life Support Podcast with your hosts, Michele VanDusen and June Colson. A couple of clean comedians here to support each other and others through comedy's wacky and winding roads. They'll talk about highs and lows and some traumatizing shows. So get ready, get set, let's go! All right, welcome to the Life Support Podcast, brought to you by the Hot Breath Comedy Network. I'm your host, June Colson, here with my amazing friend, Michele VanDusen. Michele, 1L VanDusen. I love that we got ready to start, and your eyes were like the deer in the headlights, and it's not starting, and then it started. So clearly, we're into like episode 4,620, and we still have zero technology skills to even begin this thing correctly. So, Michele, how are you, sister?
I'm good now that it actually started, and we're actually recording. So, woohoo! It's a good day. It's a good day.
Mm-hmm. I feel like you do the technology end. Right, like you play the stuff, you've done the StreamYard thing and got it all set up. So as people like look at us, they would be like, "Oh, she's the smart one." But I think I'm genius because if you didn't see my deer in the headlights look, I'm just like, "Oh, let's see what Michelle's gonna do. Can she get it started?" I'm a good assistant manager. I'm just saying. I don't ever want to be the manager. Yeah.
All I wanted to say right now is thanks, Joel. Thanks for giving us a heart attack every week.
Pretty much. Joel Byers of the Hot Breath Comedy Network, who inspired this podcast, and then it was like tumbleweeds. He just rolled away just quietly. Yeah. Oh, Joel, come back! Help us, Joel, come back. Okay, so today. This is crazy. So we have a super cool person on our podcast today. So cool that just a little bit ago, I hate that we don't have the audio. The Blue Angels actually flew over your home.
Yep.
Right before we started this podcast. How did you work that out, Michele? How did you make that happen?
It's called timing. Yeah, that's what it is. No, actually, every day I think, and I don't want to say Blue Angels. Actually, there they go again. So
I heard it.
We've got airplanes just flying over. Mm-hmm. So yay! Mm-hmm. So if you hear that in the background, it's not me. It's not the dog. It's nothing else in the house. It's actually outside, and I can't muffle them. I tried.
It's the additional sound effects that you get at Laugh Support for free. It's just a bonus. You're going to hear airplanes and also my little fat puggle. Every once in a while, if we're all really quiet, you can hear him snore. It's beautiful.
And possibly we might hear some little children today too. Yes, it's very possible. So it's exciting. This is exciting.
Yeah. So tell us about our guest. Who we got on today? I'm super excited.
All right. So today we have a school teacher, a cartoonist, and a comedian. No, that's not 3 people. That is 1. And his dry bar special should be released sometime this summer. So make sure you're looking for that. Let's welcome from Alabama, Clayburn Cox. Woo!
All right. You did it. Hey, Clayburn. She said Clayburn, which I'm so proud because typically we practice. And then as soon as she announces who we're talking to, she says Clayburn Cox. And I'm like, we practice, Michele.
Yeah,
man. So excited to have you on here today, Clayburn. Now, I know Michele knows you a little bit better than I do. Because, I just really joined and became a part of the Christian Comedy Association. 2017 was the first time I went and didn't really talk to anybody. I was kind of freaked out. And then 2018 was my first time on stage, and I was just kind of getting to know people and names. And your name was definitely somebody that people just had a lot of respect for. And when I heard people talk about you, it was always just such a kind spirit. Now, I've only talked to you once. I met you at the registration table, but I actually had like a long conversation with your wife, and she's adorable and super funny. So, I mean, I'm sure you're okay, but she's pretty great, right? Your wife, I thought she was pretty awesome.
Yesterday in the kitchen, she said something, I don't remember what, and it was followed by, "I'm a funny person." She said that twice out loud, verbatim. I'm a funny person. And she is. She's a funny person.
Yeah, that sounds like my teenage son. He's like, Mom, if you have to say you're cool, you're not cool. But I might try that on stage next. Like after I do a joke and it doesn't work, I'll just be like, I'm a funny person. No, really, I'm a funny person.
That's going to be like, you're going to be heckled. What?
Right. Let me know how it goes. If you try that on stage, let me know how it goes for you.
It's worth a shot. It's worth a shot. Well, Michele, let's bounce in here with some questions. It's laugh support. What do we want to know from our friend Clayburn Cox?
Well, a couple of things. First, I want to know, when did you start your comedy career, and how did you know, like, yeah, this is something I want to do? I think I'm funny. Like, was there someone along your path that you're like, dude, you got to do it, or like that kind of a thing, or quit being a class clown, or like, how did you start?
Right. Mine was certainly a gradual transition, which I think it is for a lot of people. Some people, it's a clean break. They just start comedy and, they know the day and point in time when it happened. Mine, almost like, the dawn comes and then a little light and then the sun. There's a transition. So I can't tell you the day and time that I became a comedian, but I do know that in fifth grade, I was voted as class clown and something else. And the teacher only wanted each student to have one thing. So she took away from me class clown and gave it to someone else and let me have the other one. And I was very disappointed. I wanted to be class clown and I was voted class clown, So, fast forward to becoming a teacher, and I would tell a story of the day to the students, and they liked that better than they liked my teaching. And so that was later, So I started doing these little, almost like one-man show, story time coffee shop things, and just would tell stories and I'd tell them at parties and things like that. And eventually, I guess that, and watching Bananas, you remember the old TV show Bananas, Michele?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
That was a big spark into converting from just being a storyteller to, hey, let's make this a thing. Let's try to make this something. And my wife, she just worked for a pregnancy crisis center, and she met Gordon Douglas, who does events for that type of thing. And I had a conversation with him, and that was a pretty good mark of kind of switching over from just telling funny stories to, hey, maybe this could be official. So.
Oh, nice. So you said that you met Gordon Douglas, and he was an influence and actually kind of a prompter for you. Now, I know Gordon, at some point we're going to end up interviewing him also, but he has this book of comedy of his career. Are you in his book? That's what I want to know. Do you know?
Not to my knowledge. I have influenced him far less than he has influenced me. I think he gave me like a small sliver on one of his old DVDs, just a little cut on that. But his book, I doubt it. I have not poured into.
So you need to, next time, since you're a cartoonist, what you need to do is, next time that you see him and he has that book out and he's showing people, just doodle yourself in there, because that's what I did. So I'm in there only because I wrote my name in there and made a little smiley face. So you need to totally do that.
And as far as somebody like, the podcast is called Laugh Support. As far as Christian comedy goes, man, you couldn't find a better person to be supportive and for God to place someone like Gordon Douglas in your path. I know that book because it was funny. My first CCA, I remember him being one of the first people who were just kind and spoke to me. And I really, Clayburn, like, my story is that I was, God just said, go to Nashville, and I was completely freaked out. So I was trying not to talk to anybody. I just thought, I'll do this and I'll go away and we'll pretend it never happened. But there were people like Gordon that said, here, let me show you my book. And he flipped through the pages, and, and a little bit later, somebody was like, you met Gordon? And I was like, yeah. And they said, you've probably seen the book. And I was like, I have, because that's his thing. But so your wife was, in this situation, and then God was able to place Gordon in her life and onto yours. That's pretty fantastic. As far as comedy goes, And as far as life support, it sounds like your wife has been pretty supportive then.
She's a winner. And, she watches the kids when I'm away, and honestly, is she's not a huge fan of being alone at night, and she puts up with it, and things like that. So she's a winner and a funny person, and encourages me to come up with new material, which is honestly not my favorite thing to do. And so she's a champ.
So you said that you like telling stories, and you don't want to come up with new material. Where do you get your material from? Like, do you do observational comedy? Are you just doing situational? Or are you just strictly like, oh yeah, my grandpa told me this one time?
Yes. Sorry, my kids picked in. A little of this, a little of that, just from my children, from the students at the high school, from just life experiences, things like that. I think the same as anybody else. Like, I don't want to compartmentalize and only draw material from one thing. If something's funny, it's funny. And humor crosses boundaries and borders, I think. And so if something will make somebody laugh out loud, that's what we write down, right? Whether it's in one of our primary compartments or not. So,
yeah. And you're a cartoonist. And so I want to show one of the cartoons that you've done, because I want to kind of know the story behind how Uncle Randy got started. And, is Uncle Randy based off of somebody in your life?
Yes and no. So I wanted to be a cartoonist maybe before I wanted to be a comedian as a kid. And I actually did that in college and tried to do it professionally right out of college, and it didn't work out. And so years went by without being a cartoonist. And then after being a comedian for about, 11 years, it dawned on me, I've got jokes now that I never had before. And better than that, like all my friends have better jokes than I have. And so like you, Michele, you've been in one, you sent a second. I just haven't made a new one in a while. We had a baby. And so you sent a good joke. But so between myself and my buddies like you, Michele, the material just is endless, right? And so the character, my dad passed away a few years ago, and he was always the favorite uncle of my family, and they always called him Uncle Randy. And so that's where the name came from. And his appearance somewhat loosely is based on my dad. Personality wise, not so much, mostly in name and visuals only, if that makes sense. The jokes are just representative of funny friends,
Yeah. So have you ever used Uncle Randy on stage? Like, was it ever a character that you started there and then put down on paper, or did you start it on paper and you've only keep them on paper? And some of the jokes that you put, do you find that they only work as a cartoon versus from the stage?
There have been one or two like that that work in print, and I'm almost afraid to try them in person. Some of like there's one that actually has two characters. There's a setup character and a delivery character, and a small relationship between the two. And so it would never work on stage unless I broke out into two characters on stage or something. So I have not tried to utilize him on stage. It's really more so the other, we pour into Uncle Randy, and he is our mouthpiece. We as comedians, he's really just a one-liner guy. He didn't have a lot of space. It's a one-panel cartoon, and so he just cracks jokes mostly.
Yeah.
Now how long have you been teaching, Clayburn?
I just finished my 18th year.
Wow. 18 years. So obviously our kids try to find, I taught for 7 years, and the students were always extremely interested in just your life, like who we are as human beings outside of, and you're on the high school level. Is that correct? You teach in high school at a high school level?
high school, and sometimes they're a little too interested. Let's be
Yes.
honest.
Yes. So what is the, as far as laugh support goes, students supportive typically? I know that my students always thought it was just really neat, or they would want to be like, where did you go this week? And it was always like, do you know this comedian? They didn't care about me. They just want to know what, real comedians that I knew. But like, as far as your students go, what's that kind of vibe with the kiddos?
They do like it, and sometimes they make some really cool posters for upcoming shows and things like that. And of course, it's voluntary; they don't have to do that. And occasionally, I'll treat them to maybe a T-shirt if they choose to do that. But they're nice. The pressure that comes along with it is pretty high. Like I imagine if someone were only a full-time comedian, I mean, they can swoop into a town and be hilarious for an hour and then leave. And it's like, well, I've seen this person for 1 hour. They were hilarious for 1 hour. They have to be hilarious all the time, because the sample size I've seen was 100% pure funny. The teenagers know better, right? They know I'm a comedian, but they also know, like, we see this guy all the time, and he's not always funny.
Yes. Yeah.
Or the flip side, like, I mean, that was a little funny, but that's not like stage funny, right?
Yes. Yeah. You got constant critics of your material every single day. But then I think sometimes it is nice to be around people who are like, nah, like, you don't have to be funny all the time, because you have a job to do. Now, I don't think we mentioned what exactly do you teach? Because you mentioned that they do the posters sometimes, because that's fun for them. What do you teach?
I teach graphic design, and so they use Photoshop to make me look like an idiot a lot, and they're really good at it. So it's all in good fun, So the flip side is, because it's such a social class, that we get to have banter all the time, and I feel like that has been one thing that maybe the Lord has just given me to help sharpen that particular skill, like crowd work and things like that. I love hecklers, because in the day job, there's constant heckling, and in the show, I used to be afraid of hecklers. Like, they're very, very welcome now. And typically, you know how it is, they're not usually trying to be mean. They usually just want to be a part of the show. They're usually not saying something mean unless it's a little jab, just because, like, hey, I like what's going on and I want to be a part of it. And so they try to insert themselves into it, and become very, very welcome. So
I have a 17-year-old, and he had to take graphic design, and he was learning Photoshop a couple of years ago. And the boys basically in their projects would try to sneak in their friends' mothers' faces on all of their projects. So like, my kid came home, and there's like, a beach scene or whatever, and there's like a lady on a float in the back, and there's my big fat head on this random person's body, and so there would be like somebody's mother peeking out of the bushes or whatever, and the teacher wasn't really paying that much attention, but I got to see all of these. It was the funniest thing. Oh my gosh. And I would be like, okay, whose mom is in the, so I'd have to look and try to find somebody's mother.
Mother.
Somebody.
I love it. So you mentioned learning how to do crowd work because you're a teacher, and because you're teaching high schoolers. I worked with elementary kids, and they just believed all the lies I told them. Like, they thought I was skinny. Like, oh, we love you. They try to see, you're not fat, and they try to wrap their arms around. I'm like, yeah, just stop. But was there any comedian, because I know that you've worked with a lot of comedians. Was there any advice that they gave you to help fine tune your comedy, or are you just getting sharper because you've been teaching these crazy teenagers?
One that was very, very helpful was a guy named Steve Roy, and he's not part of the CCA. I don't know that he claims to be a believer, but he has written a course, and in the course there are some parts that are a little crass, but the content of the course is incredibly helpful to writing material. So anyway, I called Steve, and we had a couple conversations, and he gave some advice on the phone that drastically changed my career. I'll tell you what he did. So you've seen my stuff before, Michelle, and I think June, you may have seen a little bit of my
A little bit, yeah.
So, I mean, early on, within the first year, I talked to Steve on the phone, and he had watched a little clip of mine. He said, "Let me tell you something, Clayburn." He said, "The crowd, they want to laugh at what you're saying, but you're talking too quickly." And he said, "You're stepping on your own laughs." And so he said, "Just pause a minute and just look at them and let it marinate for a minute so that they have the time to laugh." And when he said that, I think I took him maybe too extremely literal. And so I paused and I looked at the audience too long and too seriously. And that has become part of the shtick for the course of the next 12 years because it became a joke in and of itself. Like, here's the joke. They'll laugh at the joke, and then they'll laugh at the dummy who's still up there just glaring at them. And so it has always been a second laugh for multiple jokes for me. Eventually, I kind of come out of the character to be able to fluidly converse and tell stories. But the first 5 minutes has always been that awkward, intentionally awkward, based on what Steve Roy told me to do. Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So that's, he has the killer stand-up course, right? Comedy course. Yeah. It's definitely a really, really good course. And it is, the language is crass because it's coming from Steve's voice and his point of view. But it's chock full of really great stuff. So that's fantastic that he helped you. And because of your awkward long pause, you actually have a special named something along those lines, right? What is that one?
Long awkward pauses. Yeah, Marty Simpson named it, and I love the title. I wanted to name my dry bar special that. Also, you can't do that. You can't have two different specials called the same title, But I liked it so much that I wish I had saved it for this. So
what is your dry bar special's name?
It's called Toothbrush Prank War, which that particular bit, I think it went well. I felt good about it at Dry Bar. It wasn't the bit that I thought went best, but I thought that it was the most compelling title. We're going for clicks, right? And so I just thought, well, that's something I would click to see myself. I'd be interested in the title, so that's why we went with that one.
And it's going to be coming out sometime this summer, which, you know what? It might come out the exact same time as this podcast does. So You're welcome.
Yeah.
We're going to promote the Dry Bar.
Yes. So Clayburn, so you've been at this for a while, and we talked about some early on laugh support for you. Have you found that you've been able to kind of full circle, bring it back around and be able to be the laugh support for somebody else to be there for them as maybe they're jumping off and taking that leap of faith and taking their journey into comedy?
I guess time will tell the fruit that comes of it. But occasionally, like earlier this week, I got an email from a guy in Tennessee Christopher Sean Shaw, the guy from the Church People movie, he had recommended talking to me. He's thinking about taking the leap and just wanted some conversation. So whether or not that becomes a Gordon Douglas situation, who can say? But there have been conversations like that one sporadically, so.
I definitely know who Christopher is, and the Church People watch that. Thor Ramsey, that's another somebody from the CCA area, and that's cool. That it also says a lot about you when someone feels like they could be comfortable enough to reach out and just be like, hey, this is where I'm at. Because if you're not putting out that kind of open, obviously you can't have everybody on the planet who wants to be a comedian message you, but clearly there was something about you that made him feel comfortable enough to be able to reach out and talk to you. Michelle was my person. That's how we ended up together on this podcast, right? VanDusen.
Yes, that's exactly how it happened. She was nagging me and nagging me and nagging. But you know what? If you do want to reach out to Clayburn, look, you can go to his website right there, right? ClayBurnCoxComedy.com. You can go check him out there and just nag him and or you can follow him on his social media kind of stuff, and also check out the Uncle Randy cartoon. Where is that? That's in Alabama, or is it in newspapers all across the world?
At this point, it's been local stuff. If it expands, great. If it doesn't, it's been a fun ride anyway. So,
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But just go ahead and nag Clayburn. No. Now, do you what was so I know that you're a father and you have some is it all daughters that you have?
yeah, 3 girls. Oh, yes.
Now, do they think you're funny? Because I know my kids, they're like, that's not funny. And actually, now that my kids are grown adult men, if I say something, like a dad joke, but it'd be, a mom joke, I guess. And they just go, and then they leave, which is wonderful. Like, that's how I clean up my house now. If they're like staying too long or eating too much food, I'm like, so have you heard? And then like out the door. I'm like, yes. So are your girls supportive of what you do?
Very much so. They're still small now. They're 11, 9, and 14 months. And so they're still at the age where they think it's cool. So yesterday when my wife did say, I'm a funny person, my 9-year-old said, well, Dad's a comedian, and so
Yeah.
but they want to be a part of shows, and occasionally we can sneak them in there and let them do a little joke or two. And when they do, they kind of steal the show. So
now with all girls, like I have all boys. Michelle, you have 3 boys. Did you
4.
get the same, or 4? Sorry, you have 4 boys. Well, like in my house, I have 47 boys. Like last night, there was at least 11 teenage boys in the swimming pool, and we had to buy 5 pizzas, and we just raised the whole neighborhood. But we would get, well, don't you want to try for a girl? Did you ever get that with the girls? Like, don't you want to try for a boy? As if there's some, like no, that's not how it works. I'm not sure how it works in other people's world. Did you ever get that, Clayburn, with the 3 girls?
Little, if any. Once you have one 11, 9, pause, and 14 months old, at that point, it's just like, really? Like that? Like already you're doing another one? And so people at this point, I don't think they assume we're going to have any. I'm already going to be the old dad. You know what I mean? Like 14-month-old grows up. I'm not.
Have you heard of Rick Roberts? Oh, I'm sorry. Go.
Yeah.
I like that you said, you have the first 2 and then pause.
So
is your 3rd child named Lap, Long, Awkward Pause? No.
It's Punchline. Her name is Punchline.
Punchline.
So no, it's sweet little Kayla Jane. Crazy about that girl, but it's surreal. Like I'll take my 9-year-old to a 3rd grade event or whatever, and just thinking I will be back here 8 years from now. 8 years from now.
Yeah, wow.
So.
Well,
So
the material is endless. Yeah,
right.
yeah. Yeah, you'll push her wheelchair and she'll have your oxygen bottle, and you and your wife will bring your child into the
the teacher conference, like, yeah, she's doing great.
Well, Clayburn,
new material.
Yes, there it is. That's what I'm saying. It just keeps going. We so appreciate. I know you got a lot going on, and today you were telling us you're helping prep for VBS, and oh man, isn't it awesome that the VBS is happening this summer? So much was lost for our babies last year. So what a blessing to be able to do that. We want to let you get back to that. We see ClayBurnCoxComedy.com if people want to reach out to you. Is there anything you want to promote or anything else that any other websites that you would like to tell us about where they can reach you?
Yeah, so a new thing that's coming up locally down here in the Southeast, and if anyone's interested in having a show, I'd love to hear from them. Joan DeVivo from Casting Crowns. He's a guitarist. I don't know if you guys have met him or not. He has started doing comedy, and he's starting this cool thing. It's called Dirigible Anvil Comedy. And a dirigible is like a small blimp. It's constantly moving. An anvil is very stable. And so his idea is it's like a stable comedy club, but it's constantly moving. Like the essence of it is stable in that it's the same feel, the same host, the same type of thing, but at various venues. And so it's a comedy club. Dirigible Anvil Comedy, that's on social media. And we're trying to get some things going there. And just a quick shout out to Sam Beeman. He was always a big asset in the career down here in the Southeast. He would get together shows. He has connections that I don't have, and we've done many shows together, and that was always a good help to me. So shout out to Sam.
Awesome.
We love Sam Beeman. Sam! Oh.
Yes. Another person that it's a fantastic, kind, approachable, wonderful human being that we're blessed to be able to know, right? Well, man, Michele, this has been fun, hasn't it?
Yes. Clayburn, thank you so much for your time and, in your busy schedule that you just fit us in. I really appreciate it. Cause I messaged you last night, like, hey, you want to do the podcast tomorrow? You're like, okay. And then I sent you a link that didn't even work. Like, yay.
This is how we do it.
Yeah.
Well,
so
I do appreciate it.
All right. Well, guys, I think that's it for this episode, right? It's been super fun. For Laugh Support, I am June Colson.
I'm Michele VanDusen.
And this has been
another episode of Laugh Support.
You add words every time. We'll get it one of these days. Bye, y'all.
Bye.